I would like to introduce our final speaker for today, Colin Rocker. Colin is a content creator, speaker, and consultant based in New York City, with strong social media presence of more than 385,000 followers across platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. His content resonates widely due to his authenticity and focus on providing tools and strategies for career growth, especially for workplace challenges faced by first-gen professionals. How many first-gen professionals do we have in the room? First-gen college graduates? That's awesome. In addition to his content, he is a keynote speaker and collaborator with brands in B2B influencer marketing and early career success. Please welcome Colin Rocker.
Thank you so much. Oh man, thank you guys so much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to you all. I just have one issue with that bio. I'm actually at 400,000 now, so I gotta update that bio real quick. But I'm really excited to be here and talk to you all because it's been a really fun day, right? We've had a super long day full of really impactful sessions. I flew in today from New York, so I missed most of it, unfortunately. But I heard that this morning we had an amazing keynote session to start the day off strong with Linda from X, where she talked about her experience, right? Then we had an address from Dean Ayers, right, to say where the university is and where they're going. Then we had these amazing breakout sessions after lunch, right? I attended Michael Patrick's. There was also one with some folks from Coca-Cola on mentorship, how to either become a mentor or be mentored wherever you happen to be in your career journey. And that's all fun, but where do you go with that? And how do you turn the insights you learned today and move them forward in your actual life? How do you make sure what happened in this room and in this building today doesn't stay in this room and in this building? And that's what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to walk you through my framework and give you a couple tools so you can move from insight to actual action. So it's not just, let's have some talks, let's eat some Chick-fil-A, right, have some lunch. Let's actually do something exciting. But before I get into that, I do want to set some context in terms of who I am, where I came from, and why I'm sitting in front of you all today. So like Tyler alluded to, my name is Colin Rocker, and I am a first-gen professional. And obviously I'm an African American, so that means I'm not actually first-gen, but I'm a first-gen professional in the sense that I was the first one to join the corporate force in my family. My dad was a plumber. My mom taught early education. I'm the youngest of three, and I was the only one of those siblings to actually go to and graduate from a 4-year degree program here at UGA. And so when I started my corporate career at Deloitte Consulting in New York City, there was a whole rule book of things I did not know, like how to connect with people, how to navigate later pivots in my own career, how to form relationships with my managers, my peers, and the interns and analysts that were below me as well. And so I took the opportunity of 2020 to start sharing that advice online, right, on TikTok. RIP, maybe, we don't know. We'll see. I think so. So maybe I'll have to, make another pivot. But anyways, throughout that whole thing, I've really sort of grown this brand online as Career Colin, sort of offering up career advice, not only just to first-gen professionals, but from that lens, right? Because in a sense, we're all doing something a little new, right? Hopefully no one in this room is doing exactly what their parents did. I truly believe that everyone in this room, if you're in this room, that means you want to grow. That means you want more, right? Why else would you be here on a Friday afternoon, right? So I'm excited to talk about all that. But before my professional journey, I was also a UGA Bulldog. So I went to the University of Georgia, graduated in 2018 with a degree in Management Information Systems. While here, I was a Deer Run Fellow. I had that awesome opportunity. I was also a member of Delta Sigma Pi Professional Fraternity, and I was on the MIS Student Advisory Board. So I had a lot of really fun, interesting, and cool experiences while here at Georgia, and I've come back plenty of times for football games and alumni tailgates and those sorts of things. Also met my wife at the University of Georgia. So that's Kaylee in a terribly lit study room somewhere on campus. And later on, we eventually got married and moved to New York City. So you never know who you're going to meet at a networking event, right? It's been very successful for me. And this is my 8-month-old son, Isaiah Clark Rocker. And his middle name is not Clark by accident. We thought that since Athens, Clark County gave us so much, and it was sort of the binding tissue. My wife's from Monroe, I'm from Marietta. When we decided to come together and have our first baby boy, we named him Clark, just to recognize what the university and what Athens, Clark County meant for us. And he was born on May 24th, so today is actually his 8-month-old birthday. So we need to take an updated photo there. That's also, I included this one photo because it's the one photo we have of him in something that's UGA, but he looks so pissed off, so I'm sorry he's so angry. That was probably right before the Sugar Bowl, but who knows? Maybe right after. Okay, so like I said, or like I alluded to earlier, you've heard a lot today, right? We've had a keynote talk, we've had breakout sessions. We switched up the tables, which I love that mechanic, and so you're meeting new people and getting exposed to different career paths, right? But how do you actually take action? I mean, this isn't just, this is fun, this is great, and I hope you've all enjoyed the experience today, but how do you move forward and take what you learned in this room outside of that room? In my opinion, again, just to set some more context, right? Everyone here wants to achieve, right? We want to go out and take what we learned in this room and do something else because there are a lot of places we could be, but we've all chosen to be right here. And so today I want to talk you through my framework for how to create lasting change. And in my opinion, the framework for the key to lasting change is having the right set of beliefs, which sometimes involves challenging the beliefs you currently have, or in addition to building better habits. And they're in that order because if you think about it, you've got this opportunity zone where I always have this saying where you will, on your worst day, you will fall to your beliefs. And on your best day, with all the ambition and power you have and that you go out and accomplish things in your life, you will rise to what you believe you can accomplish in your professional life, but in your personal life as well. And so I want to talk you through those two things. So we're going to start with beliefs. And the belief, in my opinion, the definition of a belief is the acceptance that something is true. A belief is the acceptance that something is true. The acceptance, right? A belief is not a fact. A belief is not 100% true in all scenarios or situations. And if you don't believe me, I'll have a test, right? Like if you believe that no matter how bad things get, that you can always push through, find a new level, and create a new result, like just raise your hand. Yeah? You can push through, right? How bad things get, right? I mean, we have to believe that, right? We're UGA football fans, So, still hurts. But we also know, right, you can probably also think of someone who doesn't believe that, and they've created a different set of results in their lives. And so I think that, a lot of times when you come to events like this, and maybe in some of the breakout sessions, right, when you're hearing Michael Patrick talk about how he navigated pivots in his career, or you're hearing how the folks in the other session on mentorship sought out those opportunities, right? I mean, maybe you had some of these beliefs, right? If I ask for help, or if I try to seek out a mentor, do I look unqualified with what I do, right? Or maybe I want a mentor, I've recognized that I need that, but mentors are too busy. Why would they help someone like me, right? Everyone in my organization is caught up dealing with higher level problems than my little career path, right? In terms of pivots, do you have the right skills or I don't have the right skills or certifications to switch industries? That can be a limiting belief. Or maybe it's too late for me to switch careers. I'm too old, These are all limiting beliefs that I think can stop us from taking action. And I've had this in my own life, in my own career as well, as I'll get to. But my framework, or really my set of tools here is, when you get to this point where maybe you need to make a change, but you feel like you can't quite connect, you can't quite make it happen, right? I think it's important to question, where did this belief come from? Or more importantly, a lot of times in my case, who did that belief come from? How many times have just hearing the same things from the same people, or things your parents told you, things your friends told you, right? A lot of you are probably living somewhat different lives than, your hometown friends lived. If you left and moved to a different city, right? If you chose to pursue another career path, or if you're exposing yourself to other environments, you'll start to realize that not everyone believes what you believe. Not everyone thinks what you think. And so it's really important that we audit our beliefs in terms of our professional growth, right? Next, is this belief helping me get closer to my goals? This isn't a goal setting session. I know everyone here knows how to set goals, right? We're not going to talk about that too much or at all, really. But you have to audit your beliefs and put them against what you actually want in life, because a lot of times you'll be trying to run in one direction, but you can't actually get there because you've got something in your subconscious that's holding you back, right? And lastly, if it's not serving your goals and it's not the right belief and it came from the wrong place, what's a more useful belief that you can adopt instead? Derek Sivers, who, I'll be honest, I have no idea who he is, but he has a really nice quote. He says, "Your beliefs need to be useful, not true." And I really like that. And that's not to say that you should believe, that you can become a superhero and you can fly through the air and do amazing, feats of strength and power. But What it means is maybe you need to change what you believe around the value you can provide to a mentee, or the value that you can provide to a mentor, right? That should be a value exchange that goes both ways, and create a system of more useful beliefs instead of just the ones that you think are true today. And so that's how I sort of think about beliefs. Now, moving on to habits, the definition of a habit, a repeated practice in service of a result, right? We all know that. I won't spend too much time there. But James Clear, another insightful bald white guy with really good quotes, right? He wrote Atomic Habits, which is a book I would definitely recommend. He has this quote that says, "Winners and losers have the same goals." I think that's really true, right? Think about the Olympics, right? Every country that shows up to the Olympics to compete in the Olympic Games, they all have the same goal of taking home that gold medal. All of you that work a job, right? When you were interviewing for that opportunity, there were other people interviewing or vying for that position that had the same goal, right? When UGA faced Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, both of those teams had the same goal, right? But only one, there's only one result. So I think about that a lot. And in my opinion, the way you turn a goal into an actual habit, the way you accomplish actual goals is you have to have a system. You have to have habits, things you do on a daily, monthly, and sometimes yearly cadence to make those things stick. And so how I build habits, or how I think about this, is you need three things, okay? Number one is I think you need to have an engaged experience. So for a lot of us, today, right, is that experience. You need to do something once a year where you're investing in yourself, you're exposing yourself to new perspectives, you're getting out of your comfort zone, right? You're doing something you don't typically or normally do, and you're doing that once a year, and it can be an investment, right? I do this, multiple times. Two, you want to have a monthly checkpoint. And so something you're doing maybe once a month, once every 30 days, right? Just like a checkup to kind of measure progress and really keep you accountable. And then the third thing, you want to have a daily routine or a daily practice or a daily reminder that reinforces your desired behaviors. And so these things stack on top of one another, right? And so as you leave today, right, this is your engaged experience. What goals do you have from this? Maybe you want to start something in your organization. Maybe you've identified that it's time for you to make a shift, right? Maybe you go about those things, but then set up those monthly checkpoints and have something you do every day to remind you of what those goals actually are. So for me, something me and my wife do, which I had this viral video go viral a couple months ago, which is how I plan my entire year in one day. And so this is a video where I talk about my process. So every New Year's Day, my wife and I, we get a space, or we do it in our apartment, or we did it in our apartment before we had a baby. But we find a space, we go, we sit down, and we plan our goals for the entire year. And so that's our engaged experience. We talk about, we do something that's called dream setting, which is like a guided thought exercise. It really helps you visualize what you want to accomplish in a 10-year time frame. We set goals across 6 different categories. So our relationships, our careers, our finances, right? But then coming out of this experience, we set up monthly checkpoints. And so every month, every 30 days, we're sitting back down and saying, okay, did we make progress on that goal, or did we accomplish it? Are we plateauing? Are we not moving towards that goal? Do we need to, are we not making as much progress as we wanted to? Or do we need to pivot? And the pivot's important because throughout a year, a year's a long time, right? Sometimes your goals change, or maybe something changes that, happens outside of your system of control, right? And the routine here in this case for our goals is I always create a vision board, something on my desktop or that lives on my phone that reminds yourself every single day of those goals. And so this is another, sort of example of something you can really take with you to set better goals throughout your life. So another thing I want to leave you with is every single moment is really an opportunity to choose a new path. And so this is one of my favorite graphs. It's from a blog called Wait But Why by a guy named Tim Urban. And basically what this shows is on the left here, you have that event, you're born, right? And then as you go throughout your life, you make a series of choices. Choices like where you go to college, who you decide to partner up with, when you have kids, where you have kids, how many kids you have, where those kids go to school. You have all these choices, but at any given moment, you are this green dot, right? Today, that's your life today, and you can always make a different shift or a different change, and all these other paths are open to you. And so I hope that throughout this event, you've had experiences or you've been exposed to something that says, maybe I want to do something a little different. Maybe I want to make a change in my life. Maybe I want to get more connected with the University of Georgia. Maybe I want to recommit to a professional group that I found a lot of value in before. So you can always choose to really change that path. And then this really hits home for me because one day when I was still at the University of Georgia, it was my freshman year, I got an email that really changed everything for me. And so I was a freshman. I'm a Pell Grant recipient. I wouldn't have been able to attend college if it wasn't for the significant amount of financial aid that I had to take on in order to do so. And I got an email that said, due to an issue processing your financial aid, we're going to cancel your class schedule. We're going to remove you from all your classes. And in a week, we're going to actually kick you off the university. And so I had a week to figure out my financial aid, or else I wasn't going to be a student at the University of Georgia anymore. And it was really stressful, because I was doing this on my own, and I was trying to figure this thing out. And I, had all these beliefs that were bouncing around in my head, right? Maybe I'm not smart enough to figure this situation out. Maybe I don't have enough money for college, or I can't find enough money for college, or maybe I'm just not meant to be here, right? I had all these thoughts sort of swirling around, but somehow, some way, right? I made a new belief, right? That I do belong here at the University of Georgia, and that I was going to make resourcefulness my superpower. And so every day after class, I would sit in the Holmes Hunter building, and sort of make sure that they got their faxes right, and I was sending stuff to my dad, and he was sending it back to me, right? And I figured that out, but I had to create a new empowering, a more useful belief that I belong here at the university, and then set up different habits of putting myself in the right rooms and filling out those forms and really going through that process. But if I hadn't have done that, think about the beginning of this conversation, right? Think about all these beautiful moments in my life in terms of my connection to the university, my marriage, my son, right? All of these moments would have never happened if I didn't challenge my beliefs and really work to create better habits. But obviously I did, and that's where we are today. And that's really, one of the things I wanted to really end on is, in life, right, you have experiences, you have things like this, investments you make in your professional development. But I really think that the way you create real change and turn things you learn into things that you can actually go out and do into the world is you have to really think about the habits that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and then really challenge some of those beliefs. So my name is Colin Rocker, and thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions. Yeah. Goals, beliefs, social media, TikTok.
So you pivoted directly, I'm assuming, after graduating from university into like this TikTok space or this social media space.
No.
What was your journey? Well, I guess that's my question. What's
absolutely.
your journey?
So after college, I went to New York and I started my first consulting job, and I did that for 4 years or so. But I actually didn't make content until the pandemic, and so we were all grounded in my case because I was traveling a lot for work and I was home. It was really more of a creative outlet. And a lot of people in my friend group were making shifts in their career. They were coming to me for advice because in my group of friends, that was sort of what I was known for. And so I thought, rather than answer the same question via text 8 to 10 times a day, let me put something out on the internet. So no, it was really, organic growth like over time, but it certainly wasn't the goal when I graduated that I was going to become, a social media creator, I guess. Yeah.
I feel like it's hard navigating follow-up question, navigating that thing, because like there's people on the line board that like probably talk cross-functionally about and give each other advice. Do you feel like as you grow and learn new things, do you feel like sometimes it's like difficult to kind of translate that in your content and in your daily walk as far as if you are still in career? I don't know if you're still doing consulting now, but like,
Can you rephrase that question?
like incorporating things that you're learning along the way because you are still
Oh.
growing in career. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I think that's a good question, honestly, because I'm 29, right? Like I've never raised millions of dollars. I've never sold a company, right? I've never been a director or a VP. And even when I started, right, like that was a big thing that people, I keep stepping on that. That was a big thing that people sort of brought to me. But I think wherever you are in your life, there's someone 3 to 5 years behind you who would love to know what you know, right? And so I think it's really important, like anything, like any brand, you have to know who you're talking to, right? And so my audience isn't, CXOs or directors and VPs inside of Fortune 500s, but there are other people who are navigating the corporate space, and they're the first in their family to do so, and they're figuring out that first sort of career motion. And I love to serve that audience, and that's really worked out for me. So yeah, I think it's more so been about like over time figuring out who my ideal viewer is, and really making content that really speaks to where they are in their life. Yeah.
Hey, Colin.
Oh, yes.
Hello. Thank you so much for coming out today. I have a question with, what you focus your content on in terms of demystifying kind of, career growth. Have you ever gotten backlash or, people who have told you not to do it?
Plenty of people told me I was stupid for doing it. Yeah, for sure. I guess like I didn't really ask for permission in the beginning, so like I did it just of my own volition. So nobody was really telling me no. It is, it's something I've had to, I guess, bring up at a certain point, like in terms of the organizations I was working for, right? But I think, again, like there's a common sense playbook of like, I wasn't, filming myself doing the renegade dance in a conference room, right? Like I wasn't ousting, corporate business on Instagram Live, right? And so it's like, there's a common sense guidebook of like things to follow that you wouldn't necessarily want to expose, but also, this may sound like the content was about me and my journey, not necessarily the organization that I was at. And so I think it's just about knowing what lane you can stay in, but certainly just the outset. If you can imagine 4 or 5 years ago of like, I'm going to go on social media and talk about my career. There's definitely like, there was a cringe mountain that had to be mounted, but like, that's with really anything. You could say that about starting a business or moving somewhere where no one in your immediate circle has moved, right? You're always going to battle those detractors, I guess. Yeah.
Hi, Colin. Over here. My name is Tyler Eggy. Thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. I really liked your idea of the plan, like your year in one day, and I'll have to watch that video when I get home. Is that something you do with just your personal life or your work life as well, or is it one plan kind of incorporating both? And then how has that changed over time?
Yeah, no, it's holistic, and I appreciate you liking that. Yeah, so that was, so there's 6 categories, right? And so when we do the process, it starts with, we look at our goals from last year. We do what I call a dream setting exercise, which is really, if you're familiar with design thinking, it's kind of it's a creative thought exercise basically, which really gets your kind of juices flowing. But then we actually sit down to set those goals. It's across, I think, our relationships, our finances, our careers, our family. So, relationships are outside the home, families within the home, and our marriage. And then I like to have a category that's called lifestyle. There's health and wellness, and there's like lifestyle. So like, we got like a meal delivery service, like in times when like work is really hard for both of us, or like we have like a cleaner combined. So like setting aside goals to incorporate that, or maybe like these are trips you may want to take, right? Maybe a better example. So that it encompasses our whole life, including work. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The first time we did it, it took us 2 days, and we also didn't have a kid, so we probably don't have 2 days now. But these days we kind of just set up in a WeWork-like environment, right? And sort of hash it out on like a giant whiteboard. I guess I don't have it in front of me, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Colin. So as you get like further and further away from your corporate experience, how has your content changed, or kind of what your focus is now, and how do you see your audience shifting?
That's a good point. I think every day, realistically, I become less relevant to a day-to-day corporate audience, right? I haven't been a W-2 employee in 8 months, right? And so I think there's definitely a strategic point of like, how do I shift this to something where like I can take what I've got and then grow it into something more, or like go, I guess the path I'm on now is like, how do I make the content a level higher? Whereas like, what do the audience I have right now in terms of people working corporate jobs, right, and wanting to advance, what do they have in common with a group of people like at a higher level than that? And so I'm starting to talk about stuff that's a bit more focused on, like goal setting is a good example, right? People that have jobs goal set, people that don't have jobs goal set, right? Because one of their goals is to get a job, So, and so I think speaking at things at a higher level, and then just now, honestly, a kid is like a golden goose box of content. So that's really healthy too. Yeah. But there's also diversification. So things like, workshops, speaking, consulting, like other things that are offline that aren't necessarily tied to, me showing up and giving you a resume tip. So yeah, I think who has a mic? I'm afraid to call on people because I never know where the mics are. Okay, awesome.
Hey, Colin. Thanks for coming out. David Alvarez. My question for you is, you mentioned you started creating content, during the pandemic for yourself, for your friends. At what point did you realize that you were onto something, and how did you pivot once you got to that point?
I don't know if I knew I was on to something. I mean, I had a couple videos, like for a while I was having videos go viral, right? But that's just like, that's a signal that people want to watch what you do. It's not necessarily a signal that people will pay you to do it, right? But I think that I had a management company reach out to me about a year ago, the same way that, Jerry Maguire, right, in that movie, right? Like I have a talent manager, and so they were really helping me to see opportunities that I wasn't necessarily looking for. And I learned that I was just plainly like overcharging myself. And so it really, which going back to beliefs, like I had a set idea in terms of the value I could bring to an organization or what my voice was worth on social media. And I had to really challenge that by bringing on this company that said, no, you can actually do all this other stuff as well. And so once I saw really what they were able to do for me, it freed up a bunch of time for me to go do these other things. But it was probably a 4-year journey. Like I started making content in, like I said, 2020, and I just went full time in May of last year. So yeah, it was definitely a process.
Can I follow that up with,
Of course.
how has the TikTok ban impacted you, and how do you plan to pivot based on that?
Yeah, I think, look, if I only made content on TikTok, I'd be scared shitless right now, But I think I call myself a creator, not a TikToker, right? And so I think the skill of creativity and actually being able to like provide value to people and something they want to watch and share and engage with, that to me is a broader skill set that's applicable to other platforms like TikTok, like LinkedIn, like Instagram, like LinkedIn, like YouTube, right? And so I think for a while I got started on TikTok and that was my bread and butter, but 4 years ago, right, when, the other guy said he wanted to ban it, and now it's all switched around, I think I had a different perspective, but yeah, I think I've invested over time to growing other channels, so I'm not sweating it too bad.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah. I think we got it.
I had a similar question about just like your omni-channel platforms, but he pretty much answered it in the first place. I was just going to say, like, did your strategy or your tactics change at all from kind of like the instability of like any social media platform? Obviously, everybody's focused on TikTok, but
Yeah.
does it change
That's
at
a good
all
question.
from like the inconsistency of that to like now and how you move forward with your 2025 and forward plans?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, look, all of these logos you see here on the screen, I'm playing on a rented field, right? And even if, I don't think Instagram is going to get outlawed, but there are times when Instagram is down and I can't rely, like if that's my only reliant source of, my business, right? Like I can't pay my rent because Instagram's down, like that would suck, right? So I think for me this year, it's been about creating offline and online sources to engage with people and build other side businesses. Like in New York right now, I started my own networking events service. And so like now I'm holding my own networking events around the city. Right now, I'm putting up all my money for that, but I've already had brands reach out to possibly sponsor that event, right? And that's an opportunity for me to also grow my portfolio because I can now speak at my events and then I can get for bigger speaking events in the future, right? And so I also do a fair amount of, consulting. I have some digital resources and products that I sell. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of all that. I definitely will say that the vast majority of my business takes place on social media, but that's really the case. But I am trying to branch out. Yeah. Yes. Connor.
So when you're making this content and you've got to churn so much of it, how do you do you have like a running list of ideas that you make, and how do you keep from getting exhausted of just kind of making and talking about the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I approach it like you would a business, right? So I approach my platform as like a brand, right? And so like any brand, if anyone works here in brand marketing, right, you've got, your passion points, and then you have certain thematic things that you ladder down into, and then that goes into like the daily videos. And so I've got a Notion board that's got a list of about 100 different ideas, but those are things that I get, in an Uber, on a plane, sitting and eating lunch somewhere, right? But then I go through and say, okay, what does this connect to? And if I can't make that connection, it doesn't get made. But yeah, I would think between my own just creativity and just like honestly the engagement of my audience, like I get a lot of DMs and emails and messages and comments of people saying, can you talk about this, X, Y, and Z? So a lot of it comes directly from the audience. Yeah. Yes.
I don't have a mic,
Or-
but I
okay.
can talk. It's okay.
Okay.
In a world where we're so connected and social media is just, we all have it, everything.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself needing to disconnect, especially as somebody that is your job, that you're like, I need a break from this for just a moment, like just to, you have hours,
Sure.
like I prioritize 8 to 5, like
Yeah.
a job, and then at night I like try and put it down.
Yeah, so do I need to disconnect? Yes. Do I? No. I think there's just a reality of like, if you want to play in the water, you're going to get wet, right? And so like, I think that like with me, I set my day up in a certain way where it's like I definitely batch certain activities. Like I do all my filming here, I do all my editing over there, right? But I think, if anything, I guess my brain has adapted to the exorbitant and disgusting amount of screen time I have. But yeah, it's really something I've adapted to, I guess. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being here today. You talked about your goal setting at the beginning of the year. Could you share some of the professional goals that you made for yourself, if you wouldn't mind, and kind of talk through the professional aspect of that process for you?
Sure. Yeah, I don't remember all of them, but one of them was definitely to do more speaking and create more opportunities like that for myself. There are certain events in this space that would be net good for me, and so like I want to create more investments in terms of going to like South by Southwest in Austin, for example, or like other big like creativity, marketing, but also career in early education, events for myself, and just like to get more well connected into that space, right? And then just to continue to, I guess, get a lot tighter on like the business aspects, like get really good at accounting. Like, what is my burn rate? How much do I need to be bringing in? Like it is a business, like I'm not just making TikToks, so I think becoming a more legitimate business in terms of the people I have on my team and what I expect from them and what I expect from myself, or like some of those goals, kind of like growing up, as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
This is really amazing just to hear your story. I just want to know, how have you separated yourself from every other influencer? Because everybody wants to be IG famous, and you've actually done it and gained 400,000 followers. How have you done that?
I think I have a framework. I don't have a slide for it, but I think it's the 3 C's for me. So it's competence, right? For my audience and for who I'm serving and who I'm talking to, I know how to speak to that audience well because I've lived that path, right? The biggest thing is I'm not trying to be anyone else other than myself, right? I'm not trying to come here and say, hey, if you want to, raise $10 million and get on the Forbes list, like this is how you do that. Like that stuff, it makes me throw up my mouth a little bit. Like I'm not trying to be someone I'm not, which I think helps people relate to me, right? And so I think it's competence to know what I'm talking about. It's conflict, and so I'm not afraid to share the not so sexy parts of what I do, or like the unfortunate parts of like my own career path, times when, I didn't feel too hot, or times when, something didn't go my way. And then I think it's I forgot the 3rd C. That sucks because this is my own framework. It's the charisma. So having the relatability and like knowing how to show up on camera where it doesn't feel like you're watching a Khan Academy video, right? And you're being like educated, entertained, and you feel connected to the person on the other side of that phone. Those are the 3s, yeah. Which, by the way, like, it's a framework. And so I think, like, for a lot of you out there that are professionals, especially if you have goals of maybe running your own business, or this job market's terrible, Like, I'm not, just because I don't have a job doesn't mean I'm not, like, I have my finger on that pulse, right? And so, like, a lot of people now on LinkedIn are coming to me and they want to know how to grow their own LinkedIn presence, or they want to know how do they get started, right? And so I think that, like, I appreciate all the content questions, and I'm happy to answer them. But like, I hope you're all like also interested in, like, you don't need 400,000 followers. You all have your own, self-sustaining lives. But one of my insights, I think, over the past year is like reach is the new resume, right? I mean, this wasn't in the talk, but like last year, like I lost my job, and it wasn't related to the content I make. It was a separate situation. But just posting and making a video that, hey, this is where I'm at in my life and in my career. Oh, and by the way, I'm about to have a baby in a week. I got 30 referrals into Meta, into Boston Consulting Group, into 30 other different companies that you've all heard of. And so it's that's real. And so it's not just about getting flown out to brand trips and getting on the Sephora squad. Like you can do something for your career. And so don't think that, oh, I don't want to do a get ready with me. I hate social media. It's for losers. Like there's a real opportunity here. Yeah. I know you didn't ask for that. But sorry, got me going. Yeah. Okay.
I was curious, like obviously you as a content creator have a very important personal brand, but so do all of us in this room. We all have a personal brand. We all have our own like in-person social media followers, or like people like in this room. We all follow each other and connected with each other. Can you talk more about the importance of like building your personal brand within your network, and I guess being like your own like in-person content creator, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. Ooh, in-person content creation. Okay. I'm gonna have to steal that from you. Yes, I think it's been incredibly important because whether you all realize it or not, everyone in this room has a personal brand. When your name gets brought up in rooms you are not in, there are certain thoughts, words, and feelings that come to mind for that other person. And so I think the first step is being cognizant of the fact that just because you're not on social media doesn't mean you have a personal brand. If you show up to an office, if you interact with people, if you have a partner or a close group of friends you're around, right? I think it's the first step is really self-awareness around like, what's it like to be on the other side of yourself, right? If you had to interact with you on a Zoom call or in a conference call or at a young alumni summit, what is that experience actually like? And what thoughts and what feelings, what experiences really come to mind, I think is really the first step. And then it's about where do you want to be? How do you want to be perceived, right? I think, I'm far from, I don't have the most successful career ever at 29 years old, right? But I've been able to accrue this audience because I know who I am and who I'm serving. And so I think having that sense of direction and North Star really helps. But yeah, I would say, I would imagine that the vast majority of these people aren't, posting on social media 30 times a week like I am. But even if you're not, just be well aware of the fact that before you enter a room, if your name's being spoken, things are being thought, words are being said, and thoughts are being thought, I guess, even if they're not being expressed. So, yeah, just be mindful of that.
Hi, Colin. How do you navigate working at a company that doesn't like or discourages people posting on social media about growing their personal brand or having side projects or side businesses?
Yeah, that's. I think I've worked for a couple of those companies. I think it's interesting, right? I feel lucky because I did start on TikTok in a world where millennials, right, weren't really on it yet. I would say, at the crux of 2020, we were still sort of figuring out. We were watching and we were sort of hanging out, but we weren't really creating on the platform as much. I think it's worth understanding what that policy actually means. I mean, again, if you're showing up as a representative of your organization, I think that's an easy way for things to get misconstrued. But I don't know, I don't think a business can have, that much control over what you're posting on social media. And so if you're using a common sense guide of you're not posting in the office, there are no logos visible, you're not talking about specific people and experiences that you work with on a day-to-day basis. I think there are ways to skirt around that in a sense. And I don't know, also, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know if you're thinking about an organization in particular, but I think that mindset it's anti-employee and it's anti your growth, right? And so you have to think about, okay, if you actually want to pursue that path, are you at the right organization? If every time you turn around, someone's going to say, oh, I heard you're posting on social media again, So, I mean, it's something to consider. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yep.
Thanks again. That's great insight into how to kind of navigate the world in a new space. So thank you for that.